Alright people, welcome back to the channel. Now that the Premier League is finally over, it's time to grade each team by their individual performances. This means grading teams by their Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup and European performances. Some teams are going to get a very high score, others, well, not so much. But anyway, just like my teacher used to tell me back in school, just because you fail doesn't mean you can't have fun. Yeah, I heard that a lot. I was not a good student. Well, but anyways, let's go. Arsenal, what a great season that has been for Arsenal. Yes, they finished second and technically didn't win any trophies, and they also got knocked out of the Champions League quarter-final by old faithful Bayern Munich. I'm just going to say this has been Arsenal's best season in years. Arsenal were in a title race until the final game of the season, and they might have won the league if not because of Man City were just too good. So overall, Arsenal might not have won anything. Well, not necessarily going to count the Community Shield as a trophy. I mean, I don't really do that, but you can if you want to. But I will say this was an amazing season for them, and overall, they deserve an A. Aston Villa. Most people would think, considering Aston Villa's position this season, they also deserve an A like Arsenal. Yeah, but let's look at the bigger picture. Yes, Aston Villa did make the top four, but let's not deny the fact that they really have much of an improvement from last season. It was like a 7-point difference. Yes, they improved, but not by much. And also, the main reason why they actually made Champions League this season was because Tottenham had the worst run of form in the last few game weeks. If Tottenham had just won one or even drawn 3 of those games that they lost, Aston Villa wouldn't have made Champions League football. Also, their cup runs wasn't really that great, and they got knocked out of the Europa Conference League semi-final by Olympiacos. Obviously, I'm not saying that they needed to win the Conference League, but West Ham won it last season, so obviously I'm expecting better from them. So overall, obviously not a terrible season, but I will give them a B plus. Bournemouth. Talk about the roller coaster of a season. Bournemouth started the season by not winning their first 9 league games, and then they picked up some form, and they went back to losing again, and they also picked up form again, and so on and so on. Bournemouth just had a weird roller coaster season, but in the end, they didn't manage to pick up form, get some momentum to finish 12th. Not a great season for Bournemouth, but there was some improvement overall, so I'll give them a C. Brentford. You know what's funny? How much I didn't really notice Brentford this season. Yeah, I knew they were bad, but I didn't realize how bad they were. Brentford lost 19 games this season, and somehow were not in the relegation zone even once. They finished the season with 39 points, which in another season is relegation form, but because the other teams were bad, they somehow managed to survive. Brentford fans, I won't be surprised if next season you go down. Overall, you didn't get relegated, so I guess I'll just give you a D. Brighton this season have been very inconsistent. Let's not forget the fact they actually started the season strong, winning 5 of their first 6 league games, and it looks like we're going to be smooth sailing from there. But then the inconsistency started. Since September, Brighton have been so inconsistent that they failed to win 2 games in a row. Yes, it's been that bad. They went from finishing 6th to 11th this season, which got deserved to be relieved of his duties. Naturally, that would have gotten them a very low score, if not because of their performance in Europe, getting out of a group of death, which was quite impressive. So overall, I'm going to give Brighton a C-. Burnley, arguably the biggest disappointment this season. The expectations I had for Burnley were quite high, only being derailed by their performances this season. They finished 19th with 24 points, had one of the worst defenses in the league. Honestly, Burnley just F. Chelsea, out of all the teams from last season, I think it's fair to say Chelsea had the biggest improvement overall. I mean, they finished 12th last season, and this season they got 19 more points to finish 6th, which is quite a massive improvement. But in all seriousness, this actually been a pretty decent season for Chelsea. Yes, they started it a bit inconsistent, but they got a few good wins, and their last 16 games were Premier League winning form. They also got to the final of the Carabao Cup and the semi-final of the FA Cup. So overall, I'll give Chelsea an A. Crystal Palace have been an interesting team this season. They finished in the top half for the second time in their Premier League history and got around the 40 points mark, which they usually normally do. Ever since Glasner took over, Crystal Palace have been an interesting team to watch, going on a great run of form and even failing to lose their last 7 games. If I was judging the season based on his performances, Crystal Palace would be a high B, low A, because they always have to look at the Roy Hodgson performance too, which was very inconsistent. Overall, Crystal Palace get a C. Everton, what a messy season Everton has had. Most people would have thought that after receiving that 10-point deduction, Everton would have collapsed. I mean, it doesn't help that from December to April, Everton failed to win 15 games in a row. Nobody would have blamed them for going down, but despite all that, Sean Dyche still managed to steady the ship, not only surviving but surviving comfortably, finishing 16th. And without the point deduction, Everton will be somewhere around 12. So overall, I'll give this season a B. Fulham, more of the same for Fulham. Yes, they were 5 points and 3 positions off from last season, but to be fair, they had to sell Stammer and Mitrovic this season. But despite that, they still managed to steady the ship and finish mid-table. So overall, I give them a C. Liverpool, probably the hardest team to grade, because on paper Liverpool had a pretty decent season, finishing 3rd and winning the Carabao Cup. Surely that's an A, right? Well, there was also some baggage this season. Let's not forget that at one point Liverpool looked favourites to win the league, but they bottled it and finished third. They were also knocked out of the FA Cup by eventual winners Man United. But the worst was surely the Europa League. Everybody assumed Liverpool were favourites to win the Europa League, but instead they bottled it and lost to eventual winners Atlanta. So overall, it was a pretty good season, but it could have been better. Kind of not right mind give them an A, but I'll probably just give them a B plus. Luton Town. What is there to say about Luton? They had one job, stay in the Premier League, and they failed. Yes, they were technically in the relegation battle, but let's be honest, if Forest didn't have that 6-point deduction, the gap between them would have been 10 points. Luton had the second worst defense in the league, but overall I can't give them an F because of their squad, so I'll be generous and say a D minus. Man City. Yes, I know Man City just won the Premier League for the 4th year in a row, but overall, it's not been that great. Firstly, they lost the Community Shield to Arsenal, then they were not at the Carabao Cup by Newcastle, then they were not at the Champions League by Real Madrid, and finally, they also lost the FA Cup final to Man United. Last year, they won the treble. This year, they only win one trophy, but at least it was the Premier League. So overall, I'm going to give them an A minus. Man United. Oh, Man United. Where to begin with you? Firstly, you finished 8th, your lowest finish in Premier League history, behind Newcastle. You lost 14 games this season. That is just quite mental. Also, let's talk about your Champions League performance, finishing bottom of a group behind Galatasaray and Copenhagen. Even Bayern Munich, who won the group, finished third in their league, which was quite bizarre. Overall, this has been a terrible season for Man United. Normally, they deserve an F, but then they did win the FA Cup, beating Man City in the final. So that just pushed them up all the way to a D. Newcastle. Compared to last season, Newcastle weren't really that great. But let's not forget they were also dealing with a lot of injuries and suspension, and I think they worked well with what they had. Their Champions League run was also pretty poor, but they were in the group of death with PSG, AC Milan, and potential winners Dortmund, and they did beat PSG, but just unlucky not to get out of the group. Newcastle did finish 7th, so they basically qualified for Europe, although with Man United winning the FA Cup, they were going to miss out of Europe. But overall, I'm going to give them a B for their performance. Nottingham Forest, they stayed up, wasn't really a great season, could possibly get relegated next season, so overall I give them a D. Sheffield United F, moving on. Tottenham, despite losing Harry Kane, they actually improved from last season, but they did also bottle Champions League football, but it's still an improvement, so overall I'll give them a B. West Ham, forget Liverpool, they were the hardest team to grade. West Ham finished 9th this season. That is still bizarre to me, because if you watch their matches without looking at the Premier League table, you would assume they were in the bottom half. With the amount of shocking losses they had, why won't you believe that? They were also knocked out of the Europa League by Bayer Leverkusen. I mean, no shame in that. But overall, they did finish in the top half, so I guess I'll give them a C minus. Wolves, a mid-table season, deserves a mid-table score. So overall, they get a C. So there you go, those are all the grades from the Premier League team, judged by yours truly. Do you think I was being accurate? Do you think I was being unfair? Well, if you do, I don't care. So that's all we have for the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you, and goodbye.